Welcome everybody to Dynamics 365 Beyond Expectations webinar. I hope you're all sitting comfortably, you've got a drink while we walk you through the scintillating topics that we have today. I'm joined by, my name's Adam Spur, I'm the General Manager for Business Applications here at A&S. It's my pleasure to host these things today. I'm joined by my colleague Bill. Say hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Who's a customer success architect, and then I'm also joined by my little guest speaker, who's not so little, Stephen Crow. Say hi, Stephen.
Good afternoon.
And I do like your background now, Stephen, so thank you for that. So today, what's on the cards? So I'm going to give you a quick overview of A&S. I sort of have to assume at this point that nobody knows who A&S is or are. I'm sure we've got some customers on the call anyway who do know. So forgive me if I'm covering any old ground. We're going to talk about the CRM journey that everybody goes on. Then Stephen's going to talk about securing your Dynamics 365 environment, one of the hottest topics that our customers are bringing to us at the moment. And then hand over to Bill, who's going to ask you to all to take a breath and talk about best practices, common issues, how to manage business as usual. And then won't be a little webinar without a giveaway. So as a thank you, we're going to give away some Dynamics Health Check activity that would normally be about £5,000 to the first 5 people, though. We don't want to. Obviously, we do work in the charity sector. Unfortunately, we're not one of them. Listen, what I'd quick ask you to do, though, we're going to have loads of breaks for questions. I've built a question into after every section. If you've got a question that you want to ask, please raise your hand. I get bored of listening to myself, and I've listened to Stephen and Bill long enough as well. So please dive in, ask any questions, put your hand up, and we'll get to you, or put your question in the chat. But after every section, there is a have you got any questions, right? So we'll try that to start with. So this is going to be the slide that says any questions, okay? And the action, first of all, if you would, is so that we're all being interactive. So if you have Dynamics 365 already, put a number 1 in the chat. If you've got Power Platform, put number 2. If you've got both of those, guess what? Put 1 and 2. Or if you don't have anything, or you're thinking about it, please put number 3. Therefore, we just know who we're talking about and what we're talking about. And one of my esteemed colleagues will make sure that we've got that information. So, thanks, Dan. I can see you're doing that. Oh, Graham's coming in. Okay, so any questions before we start? Given that we haven't really started, there shouldn't be any at this stage, but every section will have these questions after it. Ready to go? Okay, let's go. So A&S, very small bit on A&S. If you don't know us already, founded in 1996, 640 odd people now, 120 million of revenue, and we make some EBITDA as well. UK based, 24-hour SOC, knock and mock. We're part of a PE company, of management buyout that the senior leadership did, of which we're all a part. And in fact, everybody at A&S, after they've been there a little while, become shareholders in the company. So we're all about partnerships. We don't do that many projects. We tend to do sort of small number of complex sort of transformational projects, focus on business outcomes, which we're going to talk about. And we're a little bit obsessed with the customer. But more often than not, people come to us because we've got some good technical credibility. So just so everybody's aware, we've got 6 practices. I'll just build that slide out. As you would imagine, from a reasonable size organization, we're not too big, but we're not too small. We've got modern work, security and connectivity, digital and app innovation, data and I, which is key for the area that I look after, which is business applications. Because obviously, if you've not got good data or a good data platform, building dynamics on top of it or Power Platform is tricky. And then we have cloud and infrastructure. So we're trying to obviously move our customers firstly into the cloud. Then once they're in the cloud, give them some applications to use that make their life a lot easier. So in terms of Microsoft credentials, just so you know who you're talking to, we're gold partners in Dynamics, data cloud, data platforms, security, app dev, cloud, collaboration, DevOps, application integration. We're an Azure Expert MSP, and we've got a lot of awards, Microsoft Partner of the Year, finalist, Microsoft Dynamics Inner Circle. So, you know, everybody's got a great slide that looks a bit like that. So we'll try this one as a little tester. Any questions on A&S? And you can either use an emoji or just shake your head if you're on video. Thank you, John. That works a treat then. Thank you, Carl. You're the only guys I can see, right? So anybody else who wants to join me on video, please carry on. Okay, so first question, have you chosen well? If you've got Dynamics already, have you chosen well? Well, go and have a look at the industry analysts and see what they're saying. See everybody in the top right-hand quadrant, Microsoft and the Microsoft platform. Go and have a look at the awards and things like that and say, look, haven't we done a great job of choosing Dynamics? It's a great platform. But really, one of the things that we always get asked with our customers is they've bought it now. What have they actually bought? Do people really know? Well, if you think about the way that Microsoft look at this as their three clouds. They've got Office, they've got Azure, and they've got Dynamics, right? But then when you get down into the next level of detail, this is a thing that I like. Azure is knowing, Dynamics is doing, and Office 365 is sharing. So the more you know, the more you do, the more you do, the more you share, the more you share, the more you have to know. It's like a vicious circle with this type of platform and technology. But what we find in some of the customers is, you know, do they really know the breadth of the technology that they've actually got? And I've got three diagrams here, which I think are quite interesting. And this is why we put them on the slide so people can see it. The actual breadth of the Power Platform. Do people know what's included and what isn't included in it? You can look at it in a different way. You know, it sits between Office 365 and Azure. There's Dynamics, which is first-party application. Then sits on Dataverse with all these other areas included. Now, and it's all, I was at Microsoft this week, and you know, the conversation is all about the platform and what we've got and how we build out and use that technology. This is a new little graphic that somebody shared with me this week. Don't know whether it says anything different. This one, however, I find particularly frightening, which is why I put it in the slide deck to share with you, because it just shows you what the Dynamics 365 ecosystem looks like. From ERP, CRM, AI, Power Platform, services, collaboration, cloud for industries, mixed reality, and the overall Microsoft platform. And the reason why some of our customers find this useful is, you know, they're looking at other applications that they've got in the business and legacy applications and wondering, well, what else could we roll into Dynamics as a platform? What's end of life in? What could we do better? So these diagrams are usually quite useful for us. So as I said, we would, you know, because this is a reasonably dry topic and it's not like Jimmy Carr's funny hour, right? We've got these key takeaways for everybody, right? So a key takeaway for that part is, you know, do you know the platform? Talk to Microsoft about the platform. They'll be happy to share with you all of that, you know, and for your thinking in your businesses, you know, what applications could we roll into Power Platform and D365? You know, and then the other thing to think about is, you know, what business processes could we automate? What are we using Excel for? What are we using old legacy applications for? What could we modernize? And those are the types of things that we urge our customers to try and think about. So then we get to this. Any questions so far on the Microsoft platform? Now, these are going to go one or two ways. Either I'm doing a fantastic job of explaining it, or actually you're all having your lunch. So I'm going to assume we're doing a fantastic job and move straight on if there's no questions. Okay, so CRM journey. Everybody talks about it. It's an overly used comment. You know, we've got a CRM journey. We're all on a journey. This is one of my favorite slides, right? Don't let the project management go live distract you from the change management and user adoption and then onto value journey that you're on. Everybody seems to think that if they get a Dynamics 365 or Power Platform project live, then that's the end of it. We can all have a little, go out for dinner, have a cake, and then really that's just the start of it. What we talk about is, you know, that's just a blip that you have to get over the deployment until you really start getting into trying to derive some value. And we've come up with a number of things that we see through successful organizations. You know, what does success look like? You know, we see people who start with a leadership mindset. They understand why they're doing it. They've got a clear understanding of what are the business objectives that they need to have, and it's driven by the business and top down as well as bottom up and involving IT. And they have organizational structures which have leadership, a core team of subject matter experts and administrators. They've built a system for training for the ongoing, and then they have a cadence of accountability that goes beyond the implementation. You know, we look at this as a 2, 3, 4 year time horizon, and a project may take 3, 6, 9 or 12 months. But you've got to have a plan for what happens after that. The general stats that we see is, you know, the opposite of that. 63% of CRM initiatives fail. Why is that? They don't have a strategic conversation about why. They don't have good training. They don't have change management. You know, what we see as a problem in many organizations is after the go live, IT start owning the system and the businesses aren't involved anymore. And as the business moves on, how do IT supposed to know what they're supposed to change? And that speaks to the next level, which is, look, you know, you've got to have a cadence, a regular cadence, a committee, a steering group, a view, a roadmap beyond go live of these projects. And that means you've got to view these things as initiatives, not installations. So to give you a couple of examples, and these are eye charts, but if you want more detail, you know, go and have a look at them. We've got a 12-month roadmap, right? We've got to drive through adoption. We've got to go into productivity. We've got to get into execution. Then we've got to get into reevaluation. And you know, one of the takeaways is do you have your own roadmap? So, for example, this is a horribly built slide, by the way. I'll just click through that. It looks complicated, right? But this is actually the customer success journey that overlaps what A&S do with the Microsoft customer success teams. And this is all after you've done the project. So this is what we're trying to get people to think about, not just doing a project, because that's a blip that you have to get over. It's what are you going to do after that? And the other thing that we're seeing is this market dynamic as well, which is technology is moving really fast. People are struggling to recruit the skill sets needed. We've got all this agile methodology, agile digital app development that everybody wants to do. The business is moving quickly as well. Salaries are high in this space, and we've got constrained resources. And there's, you know, they could argue there's a skills gap in the marketplace for Dynamics and Power Platform, given the fast user adoption and growth that everybody's, the take-up of the product itself. So we see that. So really, I put some key takeaways down there just to talk about the CRM journey. Do you have a roadmap strategy? You know, are the businesses still involved in after you've deployed it? Have we driven adoption, and how have we done that? You know, does what we've built still meet the business objectives of the companies today? You know, have we got a continuous user adoption and 12-month plan that we're executing? And within our internal teams, do we have the right skill set? Or just an admission of, you know, we might need some help. So just any questions on a quick overview of the journey that everybody's on? How do we get the project live? Then how do we take care of it after that? Everybody good so far? Perfect. Thank you very much. Bill, you good?
I'm all good. I'm all
Good.
good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was just thinking about that when you were saying about, do your business objectives align with what you delivered in the first place? And of course, it's constantly revisiting those, isn't it? You've got to see, my business objectives today aren't what they were yesterday.
Well,
We've all
especially after the
seen a
crazy,
massive
especially after the
change.
crazy few years that we've had.
Exactly. And that's brought massive change to all organizations. So now it's very important to enable a mobile workforce. And how better to do that, you know?
So just talking about the first topic, really about business outcomes. I don't know whether I'm a little bit obsessed with business outcomes because nobody's really buying technology for technology's sake anymore. Everybody's buying technology in order to provide some value, some return on investment, improve what we're doing. So I'm a little bit obsessed by business outcomes, and we talk about them in three ways. There's stage one of a business outcome is justifying a project. Do you understand what the business outcomes are that you're trying to drive? How are you cost benefiting those? How are you driving a return on investment? And then the middle of the project, have you got those business outcomes, those top three things that you're actually thinking about, that the top three things will move the needle? Because if they don't move the needle, what's the point of doing it, and what's the point of new technology? But what we're trying to do is you should put the business outcomes in the middle of your project and your ongoing business as usual to focus the project delivery team. There's lots of noises in this stuff. I want this, I want that, I want the other. But how does that actually affect the business outcomes? The other thing is to build in tactics into your dynamics that takes you from A to B. So if one of your business outcomes that you want to do is, I want to improve customer service or drive more leads into the business or create better marketing experiences, what are the tactics that you're deploying within CRM to be able to see how do we get from A to B and measure that? And then also the last thing that I like, I've got a couple of examples, is building the measurements in the project to measure it 3, 6, and 9 and 12 months later. And then obviously, the 3 and 6, 9 months later, these go on to what's our, you might have deployed MVP, what's our next phase look like? And with business outcomes and with an ROI, getting more budget assigned to these types of projects after being successful and showing success is a much easier task. So really, we've done this over 1,000 times, 1,000 deployments now, and really, people want the same things time after time, and they may be slightly different, but largely, when we boil it down, these are sort of the top 10 things that we start talking to customers about, and they've said to us these are the things they're trying to do. So, for example, I might want to improve forecasting and visibility, or better support for management decision making. I might want to try and get the utopia of 360-degree view of all my customer suppliers and all my partner relationships. Or with Power Platform, I might want to digitize existing processes or improve customer service. One of my favorites at the moment, which is going a bit bonkers, is what I want to do is I want to enable people to build their own Power Apps and use Power Automate and those things. But I've got to have some guardrails. I've got to build governance into it. I've got to build some structure into it so that I can get the rest of the organization working in a way that is responsible and governed. Or simply put, as in one of our customers' case, I just want to improve account management and increase revenue to existing customers. I've got lots of them. I don't cross-sell enough of them. I've got a couple of my favorite stories. One of our customers is a door manufacturer for all the big hotels, and I was sitting with their chief exec, and I said, what's the one thing that you want to solve? He said, we sell millions of doors every year. How is it we only sell 1/10 of that amount in hinges? How are they putting the doors on? I thought that was incredibly valid, right? They're not, we might want to do a bit more cross-sell. So that was one of his main objectives. So let me give you a couple of examples, right? You'll have all built one of these. We build them for every customer. This is a business value workshop. We get some money from Microsoft via the Catalyst process. and we build out, if it's required, a business value, which this is the output document. What are the things you're trying to do? What impact are they going to have? And what does that mean in terms of going getting money to justify, you know, a project or a further phase of a project? And then we're thinking about that vision of business outcomes, right? You start at the beginning, you go live with them, but how are you tracking them after 3 and 6 months? Are they still the same? Have they changed? Is the system doing what we set out to do? As the business moved on and the system hasn't moved on, we don't want it to get left behind. That a lot of the rescue projects that we get involved with, that Microsoft bringing into, is just because they've got out of kilter. They've got a system that was doing something for 12 or 24 months ago, and it's not moved on with the business. So, you know, we want to solve those types of things. Couple of examples. I've taken one from O'Neill Steel. They're a steel manufacturing organisation we work with. Here are the 3 things they want to do. I wanted to increase revenue from existing customers, improve customer service, and I want to increase overall efficiency. So what happened was, after we put those business objectives into the project, then measured them after 12 months, 10.6 million of revenue growth in the first year, 5 days reduction in lead time response, and 100,000 hours of time saved. And that's, you know, what we try and urge all of the people who are thinking about Dynamics and Power Platform. Get your business outcomes, put them on your project, get some tactics, measure some success. Makes life a lot easier for everybody in order to do. Give you a couple of other examples. This is an accountancy firm. You can see on the left-hand side, they wanted to increase revenue from existing customers, improve customer service, and increase lead handling. We put some Dynamics tooling in there. But you see that the bit in the middle is a really interesting bit. They've put the tactics that they wanted to do in order to get them from A to B in the system so that they can measure them. And then they're measuring, you know, 56% increase in conversations, 95% increase in NPS score, 25% increase in win rate. Those things really justify the project and really justify the next things that you can do as well. Here's one of my favorite Power Platform stories. It's from Costa. We built a few different apps for them. My favorite app that we built for them is, you'll have all gone to Costa and got a coffee, but when you go to the toilet, on the back of the toilet door is that horrible thing where people say they've cleaned it. Well, now that's in a Power App, and we've saved them 1 million pieces of paper. So my motto for that is, there's no business process too small to have a massive impact on what people are doing. So, you know, if we look at some of the key takeaways from this section about business outcomes, is, you know, what are your business outcomes that CRM was supposed to deliver? Are they the same? Did it deliver, and are they the same? What improvements have you actually seen? Have you been back and taken a breath and done that piece of work? And are your business outcomes, have they changed in the last couple of years? I've not really met an organisation whose business outcomes haven't changed. Everybody's having to adapt to remote working, hybrid, Teams everywhere, Zoom. Everybody's doing everything more digitally. We've got lack of time. You know, everybody's selling online or not online, or trying to figure out how to do marketing without meeting people or events. So there's lots of things that have changed. You know, think about one of the things about, without results from your projects, how are you gonna? Great. A great question there, Mark. I'll answer that in a minute. So, you know, how do you get more budget without an ROI? Don't know. You know, it's always better to have facts than anecdotes in my world, right? So I like facts. I like understanding what happened rather than just telling anecdotal stories, because there's always competing priorities for money in businesses, and often it's the person who puts the best business case forward who gets allocated the money. And this is a really clear one for me. You know, have you built in the tactics into CRM to deliver those business outcomes? Have you said, if we want to get a 2% increase, these are the activities that we have to do, so let's measure those things. Okay, so any questions on business outcomes? So Mark, how did the toilet cleaning app help the customer insight into that cleaning regime that they got from the notice on the door? Sharing a secret if you have to take a picture of it being dirty and clean before and after, you actually make sure that it gets cleaned in the first place. Very easy just to write clean, done signature on a bit of paper on the back of the door.
Indeed. And you can also update all 23 hours at one time.
Yeah, there you go. So,
You
Mark,
know
I
when
hope
it's
that
got
answers your
created by.
question.
Yeah.
So, any questions on business outcomes? Interesting? Everybody,
like them.
everybody sort of think, yeah, that's makes sense. Don't know that we're actually doing it, or we probably should have done a bit more of that. So, you know, I would advise you, and this is the purpose of the session, just take a breath. If that's a good idea, have a look at the slides, key takeaways, and maybe have a chat internally about, you know, maybe we should have a look at that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something about it.
I think it's important to, sorry, I was going to say, I think it's important to take it through to BAU as well, because you look at any project and you look at what you think is going to happen, build a form, it's a complicated form. In practice, does it need to be that long? You know, save steps in your process, go back and revisit all the time.
So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Stephen today. He's our security guru. And for me, this is an interesting section, but far more interesting than what I've just said, by the way, right? So I hope you're sitting comfortably. The dynamic security, massive hot topic for everybody at the moment. In fact, you know, talking to our customers, it should be job zero, right? If you haven't got this sorted out, then should stop anything else that you're doing and fix security. This stuff, it's going mental. So this is a new service, the Dynamics information within Sentinel, just been launched by Microsoft. Should be a really interesting, you know, 10 minutes from Stephen on give you some good things to think about. So, Stephen, do you want to just take control button on the top? There you go, mate.
Yeah. Done it. Cool. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yeah. At ANS, we've got our Security Operations Center, and recently we've been doing a lot of work with some clients in terms of protecting and securing what data is within our CRM and Dynamics platform. And the reason we've done this is obviously for some three stats here that people are probably aware of. But over the past 12 months, you know, cybersecurity attacks have increased by 39%, and we're seeing those evolve across a different amount of platforms. You know, it's not simple as just brute forcing a login page anymore. It's a lot more complex than that. But 89% of those compromises always come back down to the end user, and it's always about user accounts with weak permissions, you know, insecure passwords, or that user, you know, clicking on a phishing email and then an adversary getting control of their account. And this always ultimately ends up predominantly with something called up the names of ransomware or data loss in terms of mass data exfiltration, which on average costs an organization of around 300 grand, which is quite business impacting. And when we look at it, how it's related to Dynamics, I know Bill's going to talk about a bit about this later anyway, but there's so much more that you can do beyond role-based access control now. People think that once you've implemented that, you know, that's fine. My users are secure. They can only access a certain amount of data that they're supposed to. But we've worked with a client that's had a data breach that they were completely unaware of until forensic investigation occurred, where, you know, they've been given out administrative permissions across their Dynamics account to users without really realizing who those were. And obviously not reviewing those on a regular basis means that as it goes on, you know, people have permissions to things that they shouldn't do. One of those accounts was subject to sort of brute force attack because of a weak password from a country outside of the UK where they usually log in from, and that ended up with an adversary having access to all that end customer's data, and that's financial data from the one in question. And the result of that is that a business owner then received a malicious, you know, a threat to say, either you give me X amount of pounds in Bitcoin, or I'm going to release all this information onto the internet and let your end customers know. And they provided snippets of that data to provide that it was accurate. And this type of thing happens all the time now. We're seeing a massive rise in it. And not having that awareness is absolutely crucial. Because, as I'm sure you're all aware, the information that you store within these systems really should be counted as your crown jewels and is extremely sensitive. And as Adam mentioned, we've been working recently with an integration of, your Dynamics data and what's going on across your platform into Sentinel, which we'll talk about a bit shortly. And we've been working with our customers to provide service around that. So on a 365, 24/7 basis, making sure that somebody's watching and making sure that if anything does occur across that platform, that somebody's aware and notified and can do something about it. So obviously it's a very important prime target for attackers and vulnerable to threats, both internal and external. And when you think from an internal point of view, there's not necessarily malicious, but if you have a user who may have the ability to make changes to data where they shouldn't do, can affect the integrity of that data, can delete it in mass or export it to like a third-party app service, with no ill intention in mind, but still do it either through negligence or mistake. That's something that you need to be aware of. So when we're looking at how we leverage this, so yeah, Microsoft Sentinel is it's a security information and event management system where you can basically feed all the information into this tool and it will tell you what is going on. It provides a single source to allow you to identify attacks, where you're visible against threats, and allow you to sort of proactive threat hunting and respond to threats as they come in. And by feeding that Dynamics data into that platform, you can be able to get a really good oversight of what's going on and be able to understand how that's going to affect your business. And it provides you with a sort of managed detection response service that that allows you to sort of make this bespoke to your environment. So you can connect the Dynamics into this, and you create your own rules off the back of it that say, I want to know if a user is sending data from Dynamics into Teams or from Dynamics into SharePoint. I want to, if that happens, I want this individual to be notified. If it happens after 12 p.m. at night, I want this other individual to be notified. It also allows you to create automated protection off the back of that. So if an event happens in Dynamics that you do not want to happen, such as a user logging on from a country outside of the UK, say France, Germany, Vietnam, wherever it may be, you can have that automation to completely block that user from logging in, disable a user account. If you see a user that has insecure permissions and they've had those permissions for a time period, say longer than 90 days, and not used them, you can change those permissions down to a base level. And again, to escalated incidents, so you can automate that escalation chain. So send an email to this individual. If they don't pick up the incident, then send it on to somebody more senior or another contact to ensure that you are having that awareness of what's going on. It provides you a good level of visibility, so you can see when these things are happening through detailed dashboards, and all the native tools are optimized within it. And it really highlights any areas of concern. So if you are seeing people continuously trying to log on to your platform from a country that they shouldn't do, you can then implement controls to lock it down or geo-lock it to a set country. And then again, if you don't have the ability in-house, to always outsource this to a managed service provider such as ourselves that work on a 24/7 basis and have the abilities in-house to provide this service.
So, Stephen, I have a quick question for you then, right? Is this Microsoft saying we need to do more with security around Dynamics?
Yeah, I think so. So over the past sort of 18 months and this year, Microsoft Sentinel has come on leaps and bounds, and they've been adding in more data connectors from across their portfolio of products. And recently with Dynamics, they've added a load of rules that really help you see this, because everybody knows that threats are everywhere and they're going to affect every part of your infrastructure and applications. So Dynamics is obviously a massive concern, I think, for businesses, and it's really now highlighting that there is a security risk there. And there is something you can do about it now. Because if you look down this list, these are all the type of rules that you can configure and to be aware of, and it's all around user activity. So becoming aware of which users are making changes, if users are taking data out the platform, where they're sending it to, if mass data is being deleted, or audit data to sort of cover up what a user is doing, then you can become aware of that. And it really helps you keep an eye on, like I said, your crown jewels and helping you to keep that secure. So yeah, they're a list of some of the rules that you can implement, and they're sort of out of the box rules, but they're very easy to sort of customize and make bespoke to you depending on the data that you have on your platform. You can even go as far to create strings to say if a user is storing data that does not match this pattern, I want to be alerted, or if a user is sending data out the platform that matches this pattern, which may be a pattern that matches a credit card. It might be like national insurance numbers. It could be passport numbers, anything like that. You can create rules to make sure that if that happens, you can be aware of it. And what that looks like, the small screenshot, but it allows you to see that visibility. So complete visibility of the activity across your portal and any activity across Dynamics. It gives you a breakdown, a list of all the incidents that have happened, and gives them a low to high and critical categorization. So anything from a user logging in from abroad that's unsuccessful, which would be cast as a low, all the way up to this user has tried to or has successfully exported mass exported data out of the system. And when you drill down into those individual attacks, you can then you're then presented with a view of how that has happened in the first place, and that allows you proactively to make sure that never happens again. So if you can see an attack chain saying this user committed these actions from this location and follow it through step by step, you can then provide prevention to go right back to that root cause and stop it happening in future. And some key takeaways for me for that is that it's extremely easy to use. If anyone ever needs assistance, we have a lot in setting up Sentinel and connecting things to it. There's a lot of pre-configured detection rules that will provide you with a good level of base security, and then you can have direct alerting into a SOC, an MSP, or your business. Once you've deployed it, you can then create these, they're called SOAR playbooks, so secure orchestration automated response playbooks, to stop those attacks happening in further, and allows you to monitor things like integrations into third-party apps and how much data has been sent across to those. Any malicious user activity or malicious behavior, whether that's on purpose or by mistake, it allows you to be exposed to all of that. So that's a very high-level view on how you can secure Dynamics. Any questions? You're on mute, Adam, I think.
Boom. Fine for Adam. You're on mute, Adam.
It's all right. I was just talking nonsense anyway. I was just asking the audience. I put that section in because it's relatively new technology. Sentinel isn't, obviously, but it's obviously Microsoft's view of we need to go deeper on this stuff. We've all heard horror stories over the period of time. So I thought that was an interesting section to put in to make everybody aware that that type of technology is available to you, and go and make the most of it. Anybody got any quick questions for Stephen on security? And please don't let him off that lightly. Stephen, you must have done a brilliant job of explaining Dynamic Sentinel. So listen, Stephen's available. If anybody wants to have another chat with him, just reply to Tom or whoever invited you on to the webinar, or come directly back to me, and we'll put you in touch. So, Bill, have you got control now?
I have. So thank you very much. Thanks, Stephen. I think has Stephen headed off?
Yeah. He's busy in the world of security threats. Managing a 24/7 security threat department.
Cool, excellent. Well, there you go. Well, my stuff is sort of a little bit more simple. So the idea of today is just sort of touch the surface on some optimization and best practice advice. So not really going into any huge detail, but really following on from what Adam was saying about, the project is really the beginning of the journey. And most people, we get to the end of the project, everybody's had enough of the project, they've all worked long days, and they also, thank you very much, it's time for me to move on now. And people go back to the daily jobs. But in the background, we've got this technology that we've bought, and it's going to keep moving, and we've got to keep moving it forward. So, let's take a look at what a year in the life, just a regular year in the life of the Power Platform. So, whether it's Microsoft CRM or whether it's Canvas apps, whether it's model-driven apps, whatever it is, what this looks like. So, we've got twice a year now, we have a couple of signposted wave releases, and this comes back from a few years ago when Microsoft said, we're going to go to one version. Up until that point, anybody that had Cloud CRM could see that the version update was available and they could avoid it. But now Microsoft pushed these onto us. It's forced twice a year, April and October. They bring in new features, lots and lots of really good stuff, feature-rich apps that we can go and leverage in our business as usual. But, we always used to miss out on this. Here it is today. So not only in BAU have we got to manage user change, we've got to manage break fix incidents and bug fixes and all that kind of good stuff. We've now got these 2 wave releases that we've got to manage as well. So it's never been more important really to have proper change control. So from our users, they're going to raise a request for change. So, and that could be anything. It could be a user who's saying, I can have a few more fields on that form because I need to record this information. So I need to re-engineer the whole sales process or the whole customer service process. So they could be quite big changes. But if you've not got proper user control, and as Adam said before, the project's done, we've finished, it's over to IT. What happens is those user requests just sit and build up, changes aren't being done. So therefore adoption starts to dip. So it's very, very important that we start as businesses to look at, right, how do we manage that change control that change control in BAU? Have we got a methodology? Have we got change management that we want to bring in? Have we got change sponsors in there? It's still important. We've spent a lot of money building this system. So let's keep the execs engaged. Let's keep the SMEs engaged. Have we identified who the product owner is going to be? And that of those changes, are they being reviewed by the SMEs? Are we looking at whether they're going to return on investment? Are they going to move the needle on the business outcomes that we set out to? Have our business outcomes changed? Also, what's the cadence going to be of those changes? Can we automate them? We've got these great scripts that have come out now that actually allow us to start looking at putting our Dynamics changes into repos so that we can start doing development branching and we can start making changes very, very quickly in automated steps. So it's really, really good. But, that all comes back to what does this look like in BAU? So when we get to April, we know we've got that change release. So we've got January to March to make changes. After that, we want to be testing what's in that wave release and looking, is there anything that we can take? Then we've got a nice breather of 6 months through to October before we move on again into another wave release. And then who knows, it's Christmas again. Back round we go again, another year. But it's very, very important to keep that cadence fresh, keep people moving. Okay. So as a bit of a takeaway from that, just things to think about. How does your organization manage BAU? Revisit your documentation if you have got a documented change framework. If you haven't, do it, write it down, identify who's got the making those changes and approving them. Ask your team. Once we've moved the needle, or we've got those changes in that moving the needle, meet with the stakeholders and sponsors regularly. Discuss your roadmap. Keep that vision moving. Look forward. What do we want out of Dynamics now? What do we want out of Dynamics in 18 months' time, 3 years' time? How does that look? Okay. Moving into things like optimization, and please, if you want to ask any questions, just please feel free to jump in. But moving on to optimization and housekeeping, again, there's a lot of simple stuff that we can do. Often when we go and we, as Adam said before, we do rescue projects. We have customers that we've worked with for years. We have customers that come into us that are brand new. But we'll look around environments, and you look in the Power Platform tenant, and there's old environments in there. There's proof of concepts of stuff that was done. Are those required? If they're not, it's time to get rid of them, because at the end of the day, anything that's in there that's consuming storage, you're paying for. So look at your tables. And again, nothing really heavy. This isn't sort of big tech stuff. So have we got any legacy data in there? So more often than not, I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we have got a user that's requested 3 new forms added to a field. That's okay, right? So we're adding 3 columns to a database, or maybe 6, depending on what those columns are. But what did you do with the data in the old columns that you removed from the forms? Did you migrate that across? Have you now got 12 columns? All of those little bits add up. So did you revisit and tidy up after that change was made? Something that's dead simple, but very few people actually do it. Data retention policies. When we look at data retention policies, that's a subject that nobody really wants to get into because it can be quite deep and quite heavy. But if we take a simple thing like email, if you've got server-side synchronization enabled, your email comes in from the outside world, hits your Exchange server, bounces off into Dynamics. If you're auditing that and you're going to keep that data forever, you might also be doing exactly the same thing in your Exchange server. So from a data retention point of view, what do you need to hold? Do you need to audit email activity if you've already done it in your Azure environment? Don't know. And it's just the point of considering these things. Audit logs. A lot of people like to audit stuff, but do you audit everything? Or do you audit just some things? So what's important? You don't know until somebody deletes something and then you find out you've not got a log. But how long do you want to keep those audit logs for? So talk to your governance people. Again, is it important? If it is, you've got to keep it for a long time. But if it's not, don't keep it. System job logs. Again, there's another simple thing. I mean, we've had them for years, right? Go back to the start of Dynamics, really. But more often than not, we go and look in a system, we can see there's reports in there for failed jobs, there's cancelled jobs, there's successful jobs. Again, all of these things take storage. Why keep them? So I'll get to that question in a minute. So I'll let somebody else read that. And then also Power Platform Admin Center. Again, another tool that's been there for years, but people just don't go often enough. You only go to the Admin Center when you've got a problem. But why not go there every week? If it's a system that you own or a platform that you own, go in. Who's your top 10 users? What's your table growth look like? Just download the stats once a month. How many non-conformant users are there in there? Simple reports like that. Look at your job failures. It's not necessarily about going and solving everything, but it's about mapping the trends. So if you're in there on a regular cadence, you get used to what you see. So your table growth might be in production, say 2 gig per month. If all of a sudden it's 8 gig, what went on last month? You've got those trends, so you can go back and do it. So it's not difficult stuff to do. It's just about keep it simple.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg, Bill. And I know when you were putting this together, I asked you to just scratch the surface of it and just give some easy things that people can think about. But this is just habitual, getting used to doing things regularly, right?
Without a doubt. And like you say, that bucket is a lot deeper. But it start off, do the easy things. Once you get used to doing the easy things, right, okay, I'll just add something more on. I'll add something more on. So let me go and have a look at my API calls. Let me go and have a look at what web resources are in use. So you can really drill quite deep. But the point is at starting out at just looking at those simple things. So, and let's say, if you've got legacy environments in there, why? Just ask the question, check your policies. Does it, do you go into the admin center, like I say, learn these things? Do I need help with this? If you do, there's always advice out there. Please feel free to reach out. It's just the sort of thing that we do, and then we can just go deeper and deeper and deeper. So I did miss that question before, Adam. What was that question that came in?
It's a bigger question. We'll take it at the end if we've got some time.
Cool. Excellent. Okay. Jumping on to another one of my favorite subjects, optimization capacity. There is a sort of spot prize of a handshake here if somebody spots something here, but I won't point it out just yet. Quite often when we look at the Power Platform capacity model, we still see companies that are on the legacy model. So a few years ago, Microsoft actually split out the storage model, so that we split into file, we split into log, and we split into database. Database is the most important layer and therefore is the most expensive layer. So if you go into the Power Platform Admin Center and you see the legacy storage model and you need to buy additional storage, you will always buy at that top tier. But it could be that your file storage is actually the thing that's taking you into deficit. Microsoft also gives storage, an amount of storage free with most licenses. So again, before buying additional storage, do we talk, as businesses, do we talk to our IT team or our license provider, whoever it happens to be, to say, are we buying the right licenses? Well done, somebody got it. Congratulations.
Mark smashed it.
Fantastic. Well done, Mark. I was wondering who'd get that. So there you go. So look at, am I going to buy additional storage now? Because next month we've got 85 users coming in who are all getting project licenses. Then those two might trade off against each other. So balance your license purchasing strategy with additional storage if you're buying additional storage. But before you do that, make sure you're not on the old legacy licensing models.
I got two quick stories for that, Bill, and you know the customers that I'm talking about. We've had somebody come to us for some help because their system is particularly inefficient, and Microsoft have just given them a £15,000 a month storage bill, and obviously that was not what they were envisioning or budgeted for. But then the other side of that fence is people going off and buying storage when they really don't need to do that. They're just not doing the things that they should do in order to maximize the efficiency there, right, Bill?
Absolutely, and that's a very key point. You know, it's sort of like I might be doing a project in 3 months' time, so therefore I'm going to go and buy some additional storage. Well, buy it in 3 months' time. Don't buy it now. And I know I won't get any favors, you know, of some people for saying that, but it's important. Manage your estate. If you've got enough room in your environment to be able to fire up another environment, then do you need to go and buy it? You know, if it's squeaking near the top and you're running into deficit and you can't, you know, Microsoft are locking you down, preventing you doing backup, restores or copies, then yeah, absolutely, you've got to do something about it. But just look at it, just control it, and again, by visiting that Power Platform every month or so and seeing what your growth is, you can start to budget and look forward. So it's about sort of how much storage do you really need? Who owns the Power Platform and who's responsible for consumption? Because if it's me as an IT manager and I'm responsible for the consumption of it, and then the business goes off and does a project and all of a sudden consumes 25 gig of data, well, I didn't budget for that. You know, so you can get into those difficult arguments in a business. So key takeaways there, really, you know, just thinking capacity costs. So, you know, are you running under the old model, as I said before? But most importantly, probably own the tech. And again, if you need help, reach out. There are people that are there to help. And complementing onto the back of what Stephen said before about the security, you know, Sentinel's looking at that periphery and what's going on. We know the Power Platform's grown. It connects to everything now. It's very, very wide open. But again, do the simple things. Is my, you know, I'm using app-based security. I've got roles in there. I've got business units. I've got field security. Are my users using the right licenses? Are we giving people admin when we shouldn't give people admin? Who are your admins? Are you linking your teams through to AD? Are you using security groups to secure environments? So, for example, is your dev environment in the same security group as your production environment? Because it shouldn't be. Is UAT under the same security group? Are we using service principals, or do we have integrations or processes running in named users? That's always a great one. Often happens in projects, then the project team disappear, the user accounts are disabled, and all of a sudden half your processes stop working. So again, you know, consider using service principals where you can. Connectors. Microsoft, you know, I can remember doing a presentation when there was probably about 150 connectors in the Power Platform. Now it's I can't even remember the number. I think it's gone above 600, something like that. But it connects to everything. And if it doesn't connect to it, you can make a custom connector. So we've got now in the Power Platform, we've got data loss prevention. You know, does anybody visit data loss prevention and allow or lock some of these things down? And then, you know, sandboxes. Often our governance officers or the people that are responsible for our data say you can't, when you take a copy of production into a sandbox, you can't have customer data in there. But have you got customer data in your sandboxes? Are the same security principles observed in there? These are some of the things that we need to check, because if you get a data access request, who knows where your data is? And then thinking about those integrations, the visualizations and the reports. How do you control where your data goes? If you're reporting off to you're replicating data off somewhere, what's the security on that endpoint? So, because it's still Dynamics data, but it's gone wandering onto my mobile or it's been downloaded elsewhere. So it really is just sort of understanding the tech, not in the deepest of levels, but understanding what you've got, trying to keep it simple and looking at it for what it actually is. So, you know,
okay, Bill,
complex.
3 minutes, buddy. Told you, keep your track.
We're getting there.
Getting
this is
there.
my last slide.
Doing a great job, mate. Doing a great job.
So yeah, so from that, takeaway actions, you know, just understand the tech, really. And again, if you need help, reach out. I think that's me, Adam, innit?
Cool. So we're going to just wrap up quickly. If you need some help, then the process that Bill's been talking about is we call it a Dynamics health check. This is what we're giving away as a thank you for people attending today. Help understand if you can optimize your Dynamics 365 current, what's the current health of your platform, what's the plan for the future and BAU. It's run by Bill and his team. So it's run by people who've been doing this for an awful long time. We have a couple of others you might want to be interested in. If you need help understanding what those business processes look like for Power Platform, or taking the first step into that Power Platform journey, or if you're doing a whole big thing around Catalyst, which all of these things can be funded by Microsoft, just go and have a look at these things. And all the gold partners and all the top partners that you're working with will have, should have something similar to this. But often we get called in to, as I said, we call them rescue projects, to check what people are doing and help them move forward with what they've already got. There's a roadmap and there's a brochure. I think I emailed everybody the other day with the brochure to have a look at on this dynamic roadmap, and Bill and his team of customer success architects do that. There's some kickoff meetings. You can have a look on the slides. Review produces a nice report that says these are the things you should consider, insights and recommendations, and then have a look at managing your business as you. Have you got a centre of excellence structure? Have you got a burstable resource? Have you got people that you can rely on to do business as usual activities if you haven't got the time or the inclination to do that? And ask about these centre of excellence things that are working now in the Dynamics and the Power Platform community. Burstable resource with quality teams of people that you can use in the partners if you haven't got time to keep up with what the business are doing. And then, so just lastly, we're bang on time. So as a thank you, obviously, Bill has kindly not given a prize for his maths, but he's kindly offered up 5 health checks for the first 5 companies that register, to make sure that that they've got an optimized Dynamics 365, they've got the current health, they've got some recommendations, and that it's delivered by Bill and his team. So if you fancy having a look at that, or some of the things that you thought were interesting today, please reach out. If you want any advice, go and ask your current partner or Microsoft or us. This has been an educational session. So thank you everybody for joining. If there's any questions, then please feel free to reach back out to us. Megan will be sending the deck to everybody and the recording of the video, so you can have a look at it. Make sure that you've got those key takeaways and start thinking about that. Hope it's been a useful session for everybody. Very much appreciate you taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thanks everybody.
Guys. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much for attending.
Take care. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for your help, mate.